We're almost there, guys. This is our last lessons, your last set of videos. So today we're talking about operations with functions. I'm going to show you some examples using f of x is 3x minus 7 and g of x is 13 subtract 2x. Okay, so we have to find f plus g of x. Okay, so what does this actually mean? It means we're going to do f of x plus g of x. Okay, so we just go up to our f of x function and substitute it in here, 3x, subtract 7. Okay, I'm going to put brackets around there just so we're consistently doing things. And g of x, which is 13 minus 2x, so substitute that in there, subtract 2x. Okay, and with addition we can just get rid of those brackets. Nothing changes inside this second bracket when we do that, so we can collect our like terms. So 3x subtract 2x is x, negative 7 plus 13 is 6, and so we end up with x plus 6. All right, now what happens instead if we didn't have an x here, if we had a number there instead? So we want to do f of f plus g of 2 now. So remember, this means wherever we had an x, we're going to replace it with a 2. So we can see that this is going to equal 8. We could just put it right here in our final answer of this part, because this is the same, f plus g, f plus g. So we know our answer is going to be 8. But if we didn't do this ahead of time, if we hadn't done that first part, then we could start right from scratch and say, there's the f function. This means I'm going to do f of 2 plus g of 2. All right, so let's do that. There's the f function. We're going to write it down. Wherever there's an x, we're going to put a bracket. And then inside that bracket, we're going to replace x with the 2. Okay, so I'm going to put a bracket around here, square bracket, because I'm already using curved bracket. All right, g of x. So g of 2. Now we're adding g of 2. So big square bracket there. Put in the 13, subtract 2, and a bracket for the x, and in the place of the x we're putting a 2, and now we'll just do the math here. 6 subtract 7 plus 13 subtract 4, which equals 8. Just double check that, negative 5, negative 4, yep, 8, okay? All right, similarly we could have g subtract f, excuse me, the f doesn't have to come first just because it was first up here. We could do it in this order, g subtract f, and this actually means we're doing g of x subtract f of x. So just copy the g function down, replace it here, 13 minus 2x. Now here's where your brackets are going to come in handy. Subtract f of x, which is the 3x minus 7, and you can see that this negative sign in front of the brackets, when we distribute it in the bracket, we'll change the sign of those. So 13 subtract 2x subtract 3x plus 7. Combine our like terms, so negative 5x plus 20. All right, instead, if we had had g subtract f of 6, we would do this again. We would have g of 6 subtract f of 6. Okay, take the g function, copy it down. Wherever there's an x, put a bracket and replace that x with a 6, because that's what we want to put in there. And the f function, 3x is our bracket, subtract 7, and put the 6 in there. And then just do that math out. So 13 subtract 12, subtract 18, subtract 7, which is 1, subtract 11, which is negative 10. All right, now would we have got that same answer if we put 6 in here? We should. 5 times 6, negative 5 times 6 is negative 30, plus 20 is negative 10. We get the same answer. So you could do this for part first if you wished, and then fill in the 6 where the x is. All right, down here to multiplication, we can multiply these functions together. So again, this means f of x multiplied by g of x. All right, so let's substitute in. F of x is 3x subtract 7. We're going to multiply that I know that I don't need that little multiplication sign in there if I put my brackets right next to each other. So I could say this, 13 minus 2x, and now we will multiply that through. So 3x times 13, 39x, 3x times negative 2x, negative 6x squared. Negative 7 times 13, 13 times 7 is 91, so negative 91. And negative 7 times negative 2x is plus 14x. Combine our like terms. We have negative 6x squared, 39, 49, 53x, subtract 91. Okay, what instead if we have f times g of negative 1? So we could do this out and then substitute negative 1 in for x, or we can do that just right away. And in this case, that's going to make things easier just to do it right away. This means f of negative 1 multiplied by g of negative 1. So get rid of that rough work there. All right, so f of negative 1. There's our f function. So 3 negative 1 minus 7. We're multiplying this by g of negative 1. 13 minus 2, negative 1. Okay. All right, so let's do this work inside here. Negative 3 subtract 7 is going to be multiplied by 13 plus 2. All right, and that gives us negative 10 times 15, which is negative 150. And we should get that exact same answer if we plug negative 1 in here. I'm just going to check that just to be sure we're on the right track. So if we did f of g of negative 1 here, we could take this negative 6, negative 1 squared, plus 53 times negative 1, subtract 91. All right, squared is positive 1, so negative 6, subtract 53, subtract 91. 91, 97, negative 150. Yep, it works out. Okay, so two ways of doing that. All right, over here to division. So this actually means we're going to take the f function and divide it by the g function. Okay, so f is 3x, subtract 7. G is 13 minus 2x. And we would simplify if it was possible to simplify. In this case, it's not, so we just leave it like that. If we have a number here instead of our x, f, this means f of 3 divided by g of 3. So we can do that out. F is 3 times 3 minus 7 over g of 3. Okay, let's do this. That would be 9, subtract 7 over 13, subtract 6, which is 2 over 7. And we should get that same answer if we plug in the 3 up here, which we will right away, you can see. Okay, so operations with functions.